This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore. You know, it's one thing if you're an unhinged conspiracy theorist who's out on the internet making noise, but you don't have any real power. Alex Jones, for instance. Now, he absolutely has harmed individuals, and I'm not downplaying that. But it's another thing entirely if you're running with Alex Jones style, Alex Jones type conspiracy theories, and you're entrenched in the United States government working under the patronage of Donald Trump in an attempt to overthrow a free and fair election. Those are completely different things. And as time moves on, we're learning just how dangerous the people that Donald Trump installed into the Justice Department were and how close they came to actually overturning the election. The efforts and the lengths to which they went. Enter Jeffrey Clark. I'm going to read from this Business Insider article titled, Jeffrey Clark, Trump-appointed DOJ official, claimed Chinese thermostats changed votes in 2020 election, reports say. Seriously. This goofball, who was the acting head of the Department of Justice Civil Division, was promoting the conspiracy theory that Chinese thermostats, the device that you change the temperature in your house, somehow hacked into voting machines, many of which aren't even connected to the internet, we're learning now, to overturn the election, to change the election in Joe Biden's favor against Donald Trump. One thing that I don't hear anybody talking about is the fact that now all these Republicans are talking about China. No one wants to talk about the actual main source of election interference, and that's Russia. Again, we're dealing with Russia with kid gloves, which is the style and pattern and practice of Donald Trump since the very beginning. Reading from this article, Jeffrey Clark, a Justice Department official appointed by former President Donald Trump, told senior officials that China used thermostats to change ballots in the 2020 presidential election. In a recently released email, originally sent December 2020, Clark asked superiors, again here, this email was sent in December of 2020, after the election took place. This was a concerted effort to overturn the free and fair election that took place the month prior. Originally sent in December 2020, Clark asked his superiors, including acting Attorney General Jeffrey Rosen and Deputy Richard Donahue, to look into foreign election interference issues. Clark claimed hackers had evidence that, quote, a Dominion machine accessed the internet through a smart thermostat with a net connection trail leading back to China. The emails were obtained by the House Oversight Committee and first reported by ABC News. In recent weeks, Clark has emerged as one of the key figures who sought to advance Trump's attempts to overturn the 2020 election. Now, get this. Trump made Clark acting Assistant Attorney General of the Justice Department Civil Division in September 2020, and according to the New York Times, the two later plotted to oust Rosen and appoint Clark as acting Attorney General. I'm going to get to it, but spoiler alert, remember this sentence, just say the election was corrupt and leave the rest to me. The handwritten notes of Donald Trump, trying to coerce the Justice Department to lie, to commit fraud, to enter into a conspiracy to overturn the government, the election. As Insider previously reported, Trump had told Justice Department officials on December 27th, including Rosen and Donahue, to just say the election was corrupt and leave the rest to me. Now, the leave the rest to me part is the part that's really starting to come into focus now with all of this new reporting. Let's go back in time to this very program just a few days ago when Donald Trump said those things in the notes and the certain Congress people that he praised. You see, lawyers and professionals within the Justice Department are Donald Trump's worst nightmare because they write memos memorializing, as the New York Times puts it. They want contemporaneous notes on what took place so it can be referenced later, which is a far cry from how Donald Trump operates. The Presidential Records Act that he was violating every single day he was in office by ripping documents into tiny shreds that were supposed to be preserved for posterity's sake and the history of the United States. Continuing, quote, this is Donald Trump, just say the election was corrupt and leave the rest to me and to congressional allies, Mr. Donahue wrote in summarizing Mr. Trump's response. Mr. Trump did not name the lawmakers, but at other points during the call, he mentioned Representative Jim Jordan of Ohio. No shocker there that Jim Jordan is involved in all of this. But at other points during the call, he mentioned Representative Jim Jordan of Ohio, whom he described as a fighter, Representative Scott Perry of Pennsylvania, who at the time promoted the idea that the election was stolen from Mr. Trump, and Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, Russia's best friend, not in the article, that's my commentary, whom Mr. Trump praised for getting to the bottom of things. So he mentions Jim Jordan, he mentions Ron Johnson from Wisconsin, and of course, he mentioned Scott Perry from Pennsylvania, who happens to be from the same state as Jeffrey Clark, who happens to have introduced Jeffrey Clark to Donald Trump in the first place. Reading from a completely separate article from the New York Times entitled, Pennsylvania Lawmaker Played Key Role in Trump's Plot to Oust Acting Attorney General, the congressman's involvement underlined how far the former president was willing to go to overturn the election, and Democratic lawmakers have begun calling for investigations into those efforts. Now, this is where the sordid tale starts coming together. That Scott Perry wasn't just a conspiracy nutter. He wasn't just in agreement that there was fraud, the likes of which there's no evidence for. He introduced the man who was active in the DOJ to try to overturn the election. It was Mr. Perry, reading from the New York Times, a member of the Hardline Freedom Caucus, who first made Mr. Trump aware that a relatively obscure Justice Department official, Jeffrey Clark, the acting chief of the Civil Division, was sympathetic to Mr. Trump's view that the election had been stolen, according to former administration officials who spoke with Mr. Clark and Mr. Trump. Mr. Perry introduced the president to Mr. Clark, whose openness to conspiracy theories about election fraud presented Mr. Trump with a welcome change from the acting attorney general, Jeffrey A. Rosen, who stood by the results of the election and had repeatedly resisted the president's efforts to undo them. This is where we are. Every day, a little bit more information is coming out, and every day, people, hopefully you're relying on me to do this, but I'm not seeing enough of this. Mainstream media needs to do a better job of connecting the dots. That these characters are all interwoven. It is an incestuous mess in the Republican Party, especially at this echelon. These individuals who are trying to undermine our very republic, to overturn our democracy. They're all thick as thieves. The Jeffrey Clarks, the Scott Perrys, the Jim Jordans, the Lauren Boeberts, the Matt Gaetzes, the Marjorie Taylor Greens, the Ron Johnsons, the dipshit from Missouri, goofball, Ted Cruz, all of them. And it's going to take a concerted effort. by Democrats and liberals and progressives to get on the same page and pressure Merrick Garland to do something about this. The same organization, the same agency, the same department that Merrick Garland now heads was the tip of the spear in an attempt to overthrow the election. There needs to be an investigation. There needs to be prosecutions. Instead, we hear crickets. It's incumbent upon us, not just me with the slight platform that I have, but it's up to you. Make some calls to your members of Congress. Write some emails. Light a fire under your friends and your family and your coworkers who care about the future of our republic. Because it might not be around much longer. We have the midterms to make a gain. Anyway, it's not all doom and gloom because we still have the right to organize. Anyway, I'd love to know what you think. You can call, leave me a brief voicemail, 714-576-4054. Of course, you can email me daily at dollemore.com. Follow me on social media. If you are in a financial position to do so, I would encourage you to consider supporting my work here on the platform for as little as $2 a month. You can click the join button here on YouTube, see what's involved, choose or not choose to support and produce my work. You can also, if you're more comfortable with Patreon, do patreon.com/IDoubtItPodcast. Anyway, I love you guys. It's a big week. I'll be subbing for David Pakman the rest of the week. I'll still be doing content here on my channel. It's going to be a lot of work. Anyway, I love you guys. I appreciate your support. I'll see you next time. Until I do, be genuine. Take care of one another.